Hello everybody, my name is Markiplier.
Wait a minute. No, it's not. It's me. I'm back. Welcome back, adventurers. It's Brandon Lane, and today we'll be diving right back into our Let's Learn DC20 series. Today we'll be covering actions and reactions. If you're new around here, why not start at the beginning with the Let's Learn DC20 playlist here. Now, without further ado, let's dive right in. What are actions? Well, in DC20, they're considered anything that you can spend action points on. A creature could perform an action by spending AP equal to the action's cost. Simple, with most actions typically costing around 1 action point. Of course, you only need to spend action points if you're in combat or in a similar situation where everyone has to take turns doing things. Let's take a look at all the actions you can take. Minor actions. Once per turn, you can do something small for free, like picking up or dropping an item, opening and closing a door, drawing and sheathing up to 2 weapons, etc. Gaining advantage. This one's only for combat. You can spend 1 action point to gain advantage on any check or save. You can do this multiple times in a turn. Those are the 2 basic actions. From here on out, they're grouped up by types. So let's look at the offensive actions.
You stink!
Aw, not that kind of offense. Attack check. Make an attack check against a target's defense stat to attack. Disarm. Make an attack check contested against the target's athletics, acrobatics, or trickery checks. On a success, the object you're trying to disarm falls onto the ground in an open space nearby. Grapple. You need a free hand to attempt to grapple. Make an athletics check against the target's martial check. On a success, the creature is grappled. We'll dive deeper into grapple and other conditions when we get to that part of the DC20 series. Shove. Attempt to push a creature next to you. Your athletics versus their martial check. On success, you push them 1 space away from you, or to its left or right. For every 5 spaces you succeed, you can push them 1 extra space. You can also knock them prone by reducing the distance you push by 1.
All I'm saying is, throw the book in the fire.
I can't throw it in the fire, Sean.
Why?
I'm too powerful. The possibilities with this book are myriad and endless.
So you can't let it go.
I can't let it go.
All right, well.
Oh, Sean, no!
The book's gone.
Tackle. After you move at least 2 spaces in a straight line, you can attempt to tackle a creature that's your size or smaller. Athletics versus their martial check. Success, you grapple the target and you both move 1 space in the direction that you were already moving, and you're both knocked prone. For every 5 you succeed, that's an extra space you move. Moving on to defensive actions. Disengage. Impose disadvantage on attacks of opportunities made against you until your next turn, or you can spend an additional action point and be fully immune to attacks of opportunities when you fully disengage. Dodge. Impose disadvantage on the next attack or spell check made against you, until the start of your next turn anyway. Spend another action point to fully dodge, and impose disadvantage on all attacks made against you instead. Hide. Attempt to hide from a creature that can see you. Stealth check versus passive awareness. Success, you become unheard. While unseen and unheard, you are hidden from all creatures, until you make a sound louder than a whisper, attack something, cast a spell with verbal components, or the creature takes the search action and succeeds.
He adores Hawaiian punch.
Wow! You kind of just snuck up on me there, man.
I fear you're underestimating the sneakiness, sir.
Next, we have utility actions. Move. Pretty basic. You can move a number of spaces equal to your move speed. You don't need to spend all the movement now. You could move 1 space, do another action, and then use the rest of your movement speed before the end of your turn. Help. You can grant a creature a help dice, which they can use on attack and spell checks, or skill and trait checks. Help dice start at a D8 and decrease in size each time you use the help action on your turn. Object. You can perform one of these object interactions: drinking or administering a potion, attempting to lock or unlock a lock, make a trickery check to activate or disable a trap or mechanism, transfer an item between creatures. Only 1 creature needs to spend the action point to transfer the items, or you can throw an item up to 5 spaces away. Spell. Cast a spell you know, spending any mana if the spell requires it. Next up is skill-based actions. But before that, I'd like to tell you all about today's sponsor. Nobody! My channel's way too small for a sponsor, so be sure to subscribe so that one day I could tell you all about Hello Raid Help VPN and their amazing new line of gamer energy drinks. Back to the skill actions. First, we have Analyze Creature. Attempt to recall or discern some information on a target. Beat a DC-10 knowledge check, and on success, you learn some lore. Succeed by 5, and you can learn one of the statistics like their physical or mental defense, attacks, etc. Succeed by 10, and you can learn more statistics. Calm Animal. Calm an animal you can see. It's an animal check contested by a charisma save, and on success, the animal is taunted for 1 minute. Succeed by 5, and it's also impaired. Succeed by 10, it's also charmed. Again, we'll cover those conditions when we actually get to that in their own dedicated video. Combat Insight. Attempt to discern what a creature will do next. Insight versus Trickery or Influence. On success, you'll learn the target's emotional state, and if they're going to attack, cast a spell, or flee combat on their next turn. Succeed by 5, and you'll learn who they'll target. Succeed by 10, and you'll even learn what ability they plan to use. I really like this feature as it lets you plan out ahead of time. Conceal. Trickery versus Passive Awareness. To hide an object on yourself or nearby. Objects are hidden to all creatures whose passive awareness is lower than your trickery skill. Feint. Attempt to trick your opponent and create an opening using trickery versus their insight. And on a success, you distract them. The next attack against that target before the start of your next turn has advantage and deals 1 extra damage. Intimidate. Attempt to intimidate a creature that can see or hear you. Intimidation versus a charisma save. On success, the target is intimidated until the end of your next turn. Investigate. Attempt to uncover a concealed object on a creature, in a secret compartment, or even identify a mechanism's function. For concealed objects, it's an investigation versus the target's trickery. Success, and you know where the object is. For a secret compartment, it's investigation versus the discovery DC. Success, and you know where all the nearby secret compartments whose DC you've beaten. For a discerning a mechanism, an investigation against the DC set by the GM. On success, you learn how it works and how to activate or disable it if possible. Jump. Attempt to increase the distance you can cover when jumping. Make a DC-10 athletics check. For long jumps, a success means that you can move 1 space further, and 1 more space for every 5 you beat the DC by. For high jumps, you can jump 1 foot higher and an extra foot for every 5 you beat the DC by. Mounted Defense. Attempt to maneuver your mount to avoid danger. A DC-10 animal check, and on a success, your mount's physical defense is increased by 2 until the end of your next turn. Succeed by 5 to increase it by 4 instead, and succeeding by 10 increases it by 6. Search. Attempt to locate 1 or more nearby hidden creatures and objects in line of sight. Make an awareness versus a creature's stealth or an object's discovery DC. On success, you find them. Medicine. Tend to a creature's wounds. Make a DC-10 medicine check. Success, you either stop the bleeding or stabilize a creature. Every 5 you succeed by, the target also gains 1 temporary hit point. Pass through. Attempt to move through a space that's occupied by a hostile creature that's within 1 size of you. Make a martial check versus their martial check, and on a success, you can move through them, but it does count as difficult terrain, so for every movement you spend, it counts as 2 spaces. Next, we have a more advanced type of action, the held action. When a situation isn't quite right to make a move, you can hold your action until the time is right. And here's how you hold an action. Step 1. Declare your action, and spend the action points now. I want to hold a grapple. Step 2. State your trigger. When the goblin walks past me. Step 3. Wait until your trigger happens, and use your held action as a reaction. Gotcha! Step 4. Profit. It's important to note that the multiple check penalty from the turn that you held your action still applies. And if your trigger never occurs by the start of your next turn, then the action can't be taken and all the action points spent disappear. Sorry, no refunds. Lastly, brings us on to reactions. All reactions come with prerequisites and triggers, and they happen off of your turn. You still need to spend action points like any other kind of action, but the action points you spend are deducted from your next turn. There's no limit to how many reactions you can take, as long as you have the action points left to spend. We have 2 main types of reactions. First is the attacks of opportunity, with a prerequisite of having any martial class feature, and a trigger of when a creature you can see uses its own movement to move out of your melee range, stand up from prone, pick up an item from the ground, or it takes the object action. Important to point out that it has to be the creature's own movement, so if an ally pushes them out of your range, that doesn't count. And basically you just spend one action point to make an attack. You can spend more than one action point to do any maneuvers or gain advantage if you wanted to. Next, we have spell duels, which require having any spellcasting feature. Triggered when another creature you can see casts a spell, but before you know the result of the spell check. You can spend 2 action points and 1 mana point to clash your own magic against theirs in a spell duel to try and cancel out their spell. Multiple people can join in on spell duels, and in that case, they're divided into 2 groups. Initiators, those who are trying to cast the spell, and challengers, those who are trying to prevent the spell. Everyone makes a spell check, adding their mana spent to the roll, and the highest results from the 2 groups are compared, and the winner decides if the spell is casted or prevented. Regardless of the result, all resources spent on both sides are spent. In the event that the rolls end up in a tie, a wild magic surge is triggered. Everyone involved rolls a d20, and the GM will look at the wild magic table and tell them what effect happens. Rolling a 3 could see you transformed into a sheep. And rolling a 19 could see everyone around you be healed. Knowing the dungeon coach, it's very likely that this table will be expanded on drastically. I mean, he did make a D300 wild magic table for D&D. Well, that wraps up today's video. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Next time we'll be covering maneuvers, which are abilities available to all martial characters. Thank you to everyone who's patiently waited for my return. My New Year's resolution for this channel is to hit 1 billion subscribers. So now, do the subscribe. And as always, consume more content. Consume. Consume. Bye.